If you have a schema, it means that the information that she's going to teach about AI is not just going to float and you think it's an isolated topic. It's going to be anchored in something. How do we relate AI to my brand? Now, by a show of hands, because I think it's befitting to start this conversation with mentorship and conscious mentorship. By a show of hands, how many of you are currently going through mentorship? That's interesting. I wanted to see something. I wanted to see something because there's hands that didn't go up. So for those whose hands didn't go up, how many of you in the past year have attended 2 or more events? 2 or more events. Okay. How many of you in the past year have listened to 2 or more podcasts or read a book? Ah, okay. Okay. Because I want to let you in on something that I think will shift your perspective, whether you raised your hand or not, but especially for those who didn't raise their hands. I want to let you in on something that's going to shift your perspective. And that is every single one of us. Each and every one of us is being mentored. Now the question is, are you conscious of it? So whether you're conscious or unconscious of it, each and every single one of us in this room is being mentored. From when you step into a space like this, to engaging in conversations, to immersing yourself in the environment, you are being mentored. Now, in the realm of mentorship, there's what we call unconscious and conscious mentorship. Unconscious mentorship, we have all experienced. Whether we realize it or not, we have all experienced unconscious mentorship. From childhood, being mentored by our parents, our uncles, our aunts, the environment, the culture we grew up in, the teachers, our sports coaches, the TV shows we were watching. So think back to the first idea you had of becoming a woman, and I'll say woman because there's mostly women in the house. Just to give a practical example, think back on your first idea on what it meant to be a woman. Who modeled that for you? Who taught you? Directly or indirectly, who taught you how to chase your dreams? Who taught you how to speak up or to be silent? That is mentorship, unconscious mentorship. And unconscious mentorship is happening all around us. It's subtle, but you don't even realize that it's shaping you. You don't even realize that it's shaping you. And so for the people who didn't raise their hands, it means that to this day, you are being unconsciously mentored. Because for some weird reason, we believe that mentorship is a title. We believe that mentorship is a program that you must sign up for. Or mentorship is a coffee date with someone. But mentorship is in our associations, in spaces like this, in the podcasts we're listening to, in the books that we're reading. And who is shifting and influencing your mind? Conscious mentorship is saying, I'm not just going to absorb, I'm going to discern. I'm not just going to show up, I'm going to apply. I'm not just going to attend, I'm going to grow. Because growth within mentorship environments such as this is not automatic. It is a managed process. And so coming into spaces, whether it's events that you're attending, whether it's programs you've signed up with, whether it's coffee dates, stepping into such spaces and hoping that you're going to merely grow, hoping that something's going to land and click, is not enough. Because hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy, and proximity does not equal transformation.
Come on. Yeah. Go deeper, come on.
So are you intentional about being here? Because yes, some of us do buy tickets just for proximity. In my line of work as an entrepreneur mentor, I've had the honor of guiding and mentoring over 100 women through platforms such as Lionesses of Africa and the Mentorship Club. And we've had people join the club, let me bring it back to the Mentorship Club, who have joined the club thinking just by merely being part of the club, it's going to solve their business challenges. Or thinking just by merely having proximity to Hetty, because Hetty is the guilty party. Just by having proximity to Hetty, that's going to equal transformation and change in their business. And then they realize they need to deal with me. You barely see Hetty. You know, we've had people who've actually left the club because Hetty did not follow them on Instagram. And so when I have a debrief with them, it's like, no, I thought I'm going to join the club and then I'm going to have a session with Hetty and Hetty's going to follow me and give me advice on my business. So it happens. It happens. Now, in conscious mentorship, you need to be a strategic and active learner. You can't be passive. You need to be proactive. You need to understand that, yes, I am showing up, but am I showing up with a plan? And am I sharpening how I show up? Yes, I'm engaging, but am I engaging with intention? Because you need to understand that mentorship is a strategy, a key strategy. It's not a shortcut. It is not a shortcut. And so the level of intention, the energy that you come in with, becomes very important.
Very true.
Now that we've got the mentorship conversation out the way, when we are within these environments now, how are we learning? How is it that we are learning within these environments? And I've found that, working with a number of you as well, is that a lot of us as entrepreneurs, do not have learning techniques. We do not have learning models. We live in a world that is overflowing with information. There are a million podcasts. There are a million books. There are a million webinars, masterclasses. Yes, it's inspiring until it becomes overwhelming. Until it becomes overwhelming. And so as entrepreneurs, it becomes very important for us not to just be absorbing information. We need structure, we need intention, we need clarity. That is how you should be approaching any mentorship environment, any mentorship space, with structure, with intention, with clarity. Because knowledge without structure, guys, is just noise. It is just noise. Now, how do we create that structure? We create that structure with what we call knowledge schemas. Create knowledge schemas for yourself. What is a schema? A schema is a mental structure. It is a system that the brain uses to take in information and to translate that information and interpret that information. So here's new information coming in. The brain wants to know, so what do I do with this information? A schema helps you answer that question. So creating knowledge schemas. Now I'm going to give you 4 practical ways that you can create knowledge schemas for yourself. 4 practical ways that you can create knowledge schemas for yourself. Okay. The first way to create a knowledge schema for yourself is to identify your core growth learning area. So you'll identify, let's say, 2 areas that you want to grow in. I want to say 2 because I want to keep it very basic, very entry level. If you're on advanced level, we can move it to 4. But pick 2 areas that you want to grow in and give yourself at least a year. So for example, I want to grow in branding, personal branding, or I want to grow in leadership. So you've got your 2 core areas that you want to grow in. That's what you identify first. And then you bring in, number 2, what we call layered learning. Layered learning. So if your core area, for example, is customer acquisition, and you have a schema for marketing, you have a schema for customer psychology, you have a schema for sales funnel, you bundled that. So we are talking about branding and leadership now, right? The first layer is basic. What is branding? You want to know for yourself, what is branding? These events you're going to attend, these masterclasses you're going to sign up for, must answer that question. What is branding? Right? What is branding? First, entry level. Second, step up. How do I develop a brand for myself? The third one, how do I create brand equity? You don't want to start by creating brand equity when you don't even know what brand is. Right? You need to learn the alphabet first before you write the poetry. Now, you're going to be within the mentorship club. And your growth area is branding and leadership. And then Lesedi is going to come in and teach about AI. Right? If you have a schema, it means that the information that she's going to teach about AI is not just going to float and you think it's an isolated topic. It's going to be anchored in something. How do we relate AI to my brand? Does that make sense? So it's about connecting the dots. So every session that we have within the club, every session that you have within whatever program you have signed up for, learn how to connect the dots, how to integrate information. It's not separate, isolated information, but it always needs to speak to the layer that you are on. Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if your growth area is leadership, any session, any event that you are attending, how does it speak to leadership? All right. So at the beginning of the year, I did a session about having an advisory board. I did a session about your annual reports. How does that speak to my branding? How does it speak to leadership? You look guilty, Mo. You didn't do that, ne? You look so guilty, Queen. And I know a lot of you are guilty because you didn't participate. But because I also take data-driven insights from you guys, I give you grace because I know this can be overwhelming. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation today, because I do find that people will join the mentorship club. They'll be so overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. It's a lot. But if you've created a knowledge schema, you're able to connect the dots and understand how to learn how to learn. So it's not just information that's floating. Okay, so let's be anchored. Now, the third thing that you're going to do is to create a system for yourself, a learning system for yourself. So we've gained all this information. Create a learning system that's going to help you recall and retain information. Recall and retain the information that you've received. A great way to be able to recall and retain information is that after the session or event, what I like to do, I like to go on solo hikes. I love to go on solo hikes just to spend time with myself and just to think, contemplate, what are my takeaways for the week? What are your takeaways? Create those moments, those spaces where you write what my takeaway is without having to go rewatch that video that you took of the event. But what do I remember? What are my takeaways? You write that down. Hi, Edith.
I think maybe I'm understanding it differently to my neighbors here. So how before you go further?
Yeah.
So the way I understand the knowledge schemas is that I choose. The ones that you're saying is examples.
Yes.
But I choose.
Yes.
If my knowledge schemas is about learning how to sell B2B.
Yes.
Or learning marketing.
Yes.
Those are
Your knowledge. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's correct, Queen. You are with us. I love that. I love that because that happens a lot as well when we are in the club. And sorry to keep referring to the club for those who are not in the club, ne? You will join the club. I love that because sometimes we're not all on the same level, eh? And we don't always understand things. And I see it happen a lot that someone will come in high level. And because you don't even understand the basic concept, you're afraid to ask. So I love that you thank you, Queen. Thank you for that. All right. And please let's give Edith a round of applause because she's also one of those people who never switch her cameras on. 100%. So where were we? Remind me. Number 3, recall, right? Recall and retain the information. So what are your takeaways? Now, a great way to be able to retain information that you've learned, whether it's in a session, an event, a podcast, a book, is to teach it to someone. Teach it to someone. Teach it from the basic concepts. Go teach your husband, my husband, my kids. But they are knowledgeable. They are knowledgeable. Because I see with my husband, we recently ventured into a new business. And he comes back to me and he's like, that thing that you were telling me about, let's unpack that because I see that problem right now in the business. Do you understand? So go and teach it to somebody. You'll be able to retain that knowledge. And then spaced out repetition as well. That means that, yes, you taught someone today, but 1 month later, revisit. 6 months later, revisit. See how your perception on it has changed. See what other information you can add into that. Because what we are ultimately trying to do is to increase our knowledge base. But in increasing our knowledge base, you don't want to be shallow. Guys, I don't want shallow people in the mentorship club. Do not be shallow in your understanding of concepts, whether it's related to your coaching business, your cold business. Do not be shallow. Have depth. Have substance. And so when you keep going back to these topics, it gives you that depth and that substance. And then the 4th one is about applied knowledge, guys. Let's apply the knowledge that we learn. Let's apply everything that we learn. It doesn't help to get all this knowledge from Hetty, myself, Papa, and you don't apply it. No, it's fine, Queen. Apply the knowledge that you learn. So don't just read on marketing. Whatever principles and strategies that you learn, apply it into your next launch. Apply it into your next business meeting. Don't just read up about leadership. Apply. Set targets for yourself to apply. Because the greatest advantage in business today is not necessarily what you learn, but it's how fast you learn and how fast you apply what you've learned. Learn fast and apply. Test your assumptions. So you know, does it work, does it not work, so we can move along. Okay, so I don't want you guys to just be a bunch of hustlers. We are hustling. Huh? We're not hustlers. Harness. Change that hustle to harnessing. Harness knowledge. Harness the insights. And most importantly, harness intentional learning so that you can have intentional impact. Okay, the most successful entrepreneurs, guys, and I learned this from Hetty, by the way, No, that's not proximity that went to waste for me. Nah, fam. No. The most successful entrepreneurs are not necessarily the hardest working ones. Strategic learners. You need to be a strategic learner. Okay. So build your learning models, create your knowledge schemas, and watch as the pieces of information that you're constantly gathering start to work for you. And if you do not understand anything I'm saying today, like it's complete jargon or gibberish to you, let's sit down, have a conversation. Let me unpack for you. Let's try and help you create your knowledge schema and how you can start connecting the information to where you are at in your business. Okay. So I hope today and moving forward is filled with strategic learning, and it's filled with intentional learning and conscious mentorship. Ladies, my name is Ntsoaki Kipeu Yabasakwana, and I am your strategic guide to intentional mentorship. Thank you. Girl, did you give me a standing ovation?
You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Queen.
Coach Ntsoaki, that was amazing.